What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your boy Domuto. We back with another video today watching DygoKnight. When did Naruto master the Reasengan without shadow clones? I want to know that too. I was always kind of curious. That was always in the back of my mind. When did Naruto master Reasengan without shadow clones? The first time I see him do it was in the Sasuke part 2, right? Naruto versus Sasuke part 2. Yeah. So, unless he did it before, I know some of y'all probably, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's the only time I seen it. Now he does it all the time in Boruto. So let me know. And anyway, we'll get into it. Make sure you like, subscribe. DygoKnight.
Naruto's Reasengan has always had a limitation. You see, because Naruto has to both compress the chakra and rotate with immense speed, he couldn't concentrate on both things at the same time, and therefore Naruto had to use a shadow clone to rotate the Reasengan, while the original one compresses the chakra. That's what creates the jutsu. When Naruto first tried the Reasengan during the training in the Search for Tsunade arc, he was trying to rotate the jutsu with his offhand, and that simply wasn't working because he couldn't concentrate on both things. The jutsu still had a mild effect, but instead of utterly destroying the trees Naruto was aiming at, it was just doing that weird spiral type of damage. But then when he fights against Kabuto, he figures it out. He understands that, oh, if I use a shadow clone, an independent mind that's not my own, but it's me in a way, I can just focus on compressing the chakra and the shadow clone can rotate the Reasengan for me. It's a perfect way to combine both of Naruto's most iconic jutsus together, and it just makes for an extremely cathartic scene with Naruto figuring the jutsu out in the middle of battle. And at the same time, this gives Naruto's jutsu a limitation here, because the Reasengan is really freaking powerful. Obviously, being able to use the Reasengan without a shadow clone like Minato and Jiraiya is gonna give you a much bigger advantage. After all, you don't have to weave signs, you don't have to do anything like that, you just have to activate the Rasengan and that's it.
Them niggas don't weave signs no more.
For a lot of character progression when it comes to Naruto's powers. This limitation also carries over to Naruto Shippuden when Naruto was learning the Rasen Shuriken. Now Naruto had to focus on 3 things at the same time. He had to do the 2 things he had to do before with the Rasengan, compressing and rotating, but now on top of those 2 things, he had to do another. He had to add the nature transformation, Wind Style, in order to form the Wind Style Rasen Shuriken. So the answer is simply to use another shadow clone. That's actually an idea Kakashi came up with, because Naruto was like, I can't do that. I can't infuse it with nature transformation because it's as if I have to look to the right and to the left at the same time, so it's impossible. And then Kakashi uses a shadow clone and look to both sides, giving Naruto the idea, which works. I mean, maybe Naruto could have figured that out on his own, but regardless, now one clone provides the nature transformation and the other the rotation. And that's also another limitation for Naruto's abilities. And let's be real here, the Rasen Shuriken is extremely powerful, so giving it some limitations is good from a storytelling perspective, also because how characters go around those limitations and overcome them may be more interesting than the jutsu itself. And obviously, mastering the jutsus without the aid of shadow clones will be something very difficult, otherwise Naruto would have done it. Especially because in Naruto Shippuden, Naruto can use his shadow clone army to train much faster. And for how difficult the jutsu is and how pivotal the jutsu is for Naruto's arsenal, you would think that Naruto learning how to use a Rasengan without the aid of a shadow clone would be a big deal, but it really isn't. He just kinda learns it, and you don't even realize when that happened. Like, sure, we all know that by the end of the Naruto series, Naruto is using the Rasengan and its variants without the aid of a shadow clone, but you don't really realize it until he's doing it a lot. So it's as if Naruto didn't really learn it, he just kinda did it without really an explanation. Or was it? Well, we're gonna be exploring this very fact in this video and try to determine when Naruto learned to use the Rasengan and its variants without the aid of a shadow clone. So let's go back to the very first time Naruto used a Rasengan without a shadow clone, and many people don't realize this, but it's much earlier than you might expect. It's in the first battle in the Valley of the End against Sasuke. When Naruto and Sasuke were in their final transformations for that fight,
in the first battle,
about to clash the Chidori and Rasengan, Naruto creates his Vermilion Rasengan without the aid of a shadow clone. So what gives?
Could say that the
Naruto
Nine
was
Tails
able
helped
to do
him
that back in Naruto Part 1, and then he keeps on using clones in Naruto Shippuden? Well, it's not that simple. At that point, Naruto was amped with a Nine Tails' chakra cloak. It was just one tail, but it was still by far the strongest Nine Tails transformation Naruto had ever gone through. You could visibly see the chakra chakra extremely clearly, so much so that the chakra itself formed around Naruto in the shape of a fox. And if you look carefully at the scene of Naruto using Vermilion Rasengan, you see that it's the Ninetales' chakra that aids Naruto in the Rasengan's formation. You see the Ninetales' chakra coalescing together and starting to spin, forming the Rasengan. It's much different from any regular Rasengan Naruto had ever done. But how did the Ninetales' chakra help Naruto out? Was the Ninetales literally helping Naruto, forming the Rasengan at that point? Could the Ninetales even have that type of control over Naruto in that state? And no, it wasn't Kurama doing that. Because the Ninetales could never actually get Naruto's control. It could imbue him with chakra and made him erratic, destructive, and irrational, but the intellect of the Ninetales could never manifest itself unless the seal was completely broken. However, the chakra of the Ninetales still carried over the Ninetales' abilities, and even though it didn't have an actual intellect, it could move on its own, and that's why Sasuke wasn't able to predict his movements anymore when the Ninetales' cloak activated. Naruto was going to do one thing, but the mental itself was doing something else. So it did have a sort of will, but it didn't have an intellect. And most importantly, that will carried the powers of the Ninetales. And as we see in the Minato one-shot, when Minato creates the Rasengan, he bases the Rasengan on the tailed beast bomb. He sees the tailed beasts forming the Biju bombs, compressing the chakra, and that's what gives Minato the idea, oh, I guess I could do something similar with my chakra here and put some spin on top of that. And so because the Rasengan is a very similar jutsu to the tailed beast bomb, an ability that obviously the Ninetales has access to, the mental's will would know how to help Naruto out, forming that Rasengan. And that's what allows Naruto to use the jutsu without the aid of a shadow clone. No, he cannot do both tasks at the same time, compressing and rotating. But the mental can take care of half of the job, so Naruto can produce the jutsu. The problem is, the mental of the Ninetales is not something Naruto is encouraged to use because it's very damaging to him. And when Naruto has a smaller Ninetales imp, when his eyes are red or maybe his whiskers are more pronounced, he is not capable of using the Rasengan without a shadow clone. He needs to have the mantle around him, more chakra, more of that Ninetales' will to help him use the Rasengan. So if you take a look at his fight against Kakuzu, for example, when he had red Ninetales' eyes, he still had to use clones to use the Rasen Shuriken, for example. And on top of the cloak being damaging to Naruto's body, he just wouldn't use that power to simply acquire the ability to use the Rasengan without a clone. It was far too dangerous to other people around him as well. He could go crazy. We saw that happening during the Rasen Shuriken training when one of the clones manifested a mantle and Yamato had to subdue it with his wood style. And honestly, the Rasengan Naruto used against Sasuke in the Valley of the End seems like it was almost subconsciously done. When Naruto enters the one-tail cloak state, he seems much more animalistic than anything else there. He doesn't seem to be completely sane. It's almost as if the will of the mantle is taking over, and that's what actually happens slowly but surely, until he's completely taken over by the destructive will of the chakra when the Four Tails arrives, and that's what we see against Orochimaru and Shippuden. But okay, technically the first time he used it was against Sasuke, but he didn't learn how to use the Rasengan without a shadow clone there. It was the cloak helping him out, and it's not something Naruto would use all the time.
Right.
So when does it actually happen? Well, even after Naruto masters Sage Mode, every time he used a Rasengan or Rasen Shuriken, there are clones helping him out. Even after he learns to toss the Rasen Shuriken, he still needed clones to help him perform the jutsu. So it wasn't with Sage Mode that Naruto learned it. It was sorta technically with KCM, but not really. Let me explain. When Naruto masters KCM 1, way before he befriends the Ninetales, he acquires the ability to use the Rasengan, the Rasen Shuriken, and all of its variants without the aid of a shadow clone. But Naruto still didn't learn how to do the Rasengan and the Rasen Shuriken by himself without any aid. We clearly see every time Naruto uses the Rasengan that there is an additional limb extending out from the KCM mantle and helping Naruto form the Rasengan. That limb is providing the rotation to the Rasengan. And the same thing is applied to the Rasen Shuriken, but instead of one limb, it's going to be two limbs. So when Naruto raises the Rasen Shuriken, there are two extended Kurama chakra limbs as well that are actually helping him create the Rasen Shuriken. So the same thing that happened with Naruto back in Naruto Part 1, which happened subconsciously, is now something Naruto can apply in combat consciously. The Ninetales' chakra carries that will and the ability to create the Rasen Shuriken and the Rasengan. And yeah, this makes Naruto effectively effectively able to use the jutsu without the aid of a shadow clone. He can use the Rasengan like Minato used to do and Jiraiya as well, but that's still cheating a bit. Naruto hasn't actually learned to do both things at the same time when it comes to the Rasengan, and 3 things at the same time when it comes to the Rasen Shuriken. And if he runs out of KCM chakra, he can no longer use that, so that's a problem. We see in the fight against the Third Kage, for example, that KCM Naruto was using the Rasen Shuriken and the Rasengan and everything without the aid of a clone, but once he deactivates KCM and uses Sage Mode, he needs a clone to help him out produce the Rasengan. So when does he actually learn to do it without the aid of anything, just by himself? Well, that's the controversial part. We know for sure Naruto learns to use the Rasengan and the Rasen Shuriken without the aid of anything once he acquires 6th Path Sage Mode. After all, one of the first things Naruto does once he acquires that power is to use a massive magma-style Rasen Shuriken on Madara without the aid of a clone and without using any Nine-Tails' chakra. Now, I guess you could still argue that because Naruto received the chakra of every single tail beast inside of him, the other tail beasts could still be somewhat helping him out in the jutsu. The 4 tails literally tells Naruto that, oh, you should use my power here, it's gonna be good, use the Magma Rasen Shuriken, I'll help you out. And the same thing happens with Shukaku when Naruto uses the Magnet-style Rasengan. Naruto doesn't use a Shadow Clone for that Rasengan, and he doesn't use an additional limb from the KCM cloak he was using there. So it feels like that Rasengan was also a Rasengan he was able to produce it on his own. And then shortly after that, Naruto uses the Bijudama Rasen Shuriken Barrage, which Naruto essentially just raises his hand and several Bijudama Rasen
powerful as
Shurikens
fuck
appear in the air above him. And like, those are a lot of Rasen Shurikens at the same time. And they are not even connected to Naruto physically. It's not as if Naruto is holding every single one of them. They're hovering above him. So they just manifested because Naruto did them. And he didn't need the help of a clone or anything like that. And even if you say that a tail beast, like in this case the Nine-Tails, is helping Naruto from within, you still need to rotate the jutsu. And that's not something a tail beast inside of Naruto could do if it's not through its chakra manifesting physically. So the rotation has to be done physically or by Naruto himself spinning it on his own without the aid of anything else, which is what he wasn't able to do back then, but now, with Sage of 6 Paths Senjutsu, he is. So acquiring the godlike powers of Hagoromo will allow Naruto to produce Rasengans without that little limitation he used to have. And after this point, it's very clear Naruto doesn't need a clone anymore. After all, in the fight against Sasuke in the Valley of the End, their final fight, Naruto, without any sort of amp or anything, produces a Rasengan without the aid of a clone.
That's the first time I've seen him do it without nothing.
The final Rasengan he uses for the clash against Sasuke's Chidori Amaterasu thing. Yeah, the Nine-Tails gives Naruto some chakra to produce that Rasengan, but Naruto is the one who uses the jutsu, and he does the Rasengan without anything else. No Kurama chakra around him, no shadow clone, nothing. He just produces it like Minato used to. It appears that with Sage of 6 Paths Senjutsu, he's simply learned that ability, somewhat innately almost. However, that is not exactly the case, because even before Naruto gets Sage of 6 Paths Sage Mode, he was already using the Rasengan without aid in a few occasions. The first one being the Rasengan KCM2 Naruto uses to destroy Obito's mask. Now, Naruto ignites the Rasengan in the real world before he's Kamoi'd into the Kamui dimension, and it's there that he unmasks Obito and everything. But it feels like he forms the Rasengan without the aid of a limb. We don't see a limb or anything. Now, we can always assume that the Rasengan had been formed before we actually see the panel of Naruto using it for the first time there, which is kind of a cool panel where the Rasengan and the Bijudama the other Naruto is using are kind of connected, so it forms like a circle with the two things. But it just kind of feels like Naruto just ignited the Rasengan because the other Naruto is just creating the Biju bomb, and you don't see another limb that's creating the Rasengan helping Naruto out. But before that, when he was fighting against Obito, he was using the Rasengan with the help of a limb. For example, when Naruto rushed the Gero Mazo and Obito used the fan to block his Rasengan, there was an additional limb to form the Rasengan there. But the difference is that Naruto was in KCM 1 when he was forming the Rasengan with a limb, and the Naruto that unmasked Obito was in KCM 2.
So
could that have an
KCM2?
effect? Honestly, it doesn't really make much sense for it to have an effect on that particular thing. Does Naruto inherently gain more chakra control for befriending the Nine-Tails and acquiring higher Nine-Tails powers?
Now he can just do it one-handed?
Maybe the Nine-Tails can provide that to Naruto, but the Nine-Tails' chakra was already forming the Rasengan for Naruto, so I would just assume it would continue the trend here, right? But it appears that it's not the case. However, there's an even stranger case when Naruto uses the Rasengan without the aid of a clone and without even the Nine-Tails' chakra. And that's when Naruto uses his Rasengan with Sage Mode to hit Domuto from behind after Tobirama teleports him. We see Naruto activating Sage Mode, but using a Rasengan there without a clone, without the Nine-Tails' chakra, and he just kind of forms the jutsu. Now again, yes, technically we don't see the jutsu getting formed, so maybe he did that off-panel with a shadow clone, but we don't see a Naruto shadow clone there, and we don't see Naruto creating a shadow clone in that scene, so it very much feels like Naruto just created a Rasengan without the aid of anything. And as we know from the fights previously, Sage Mode doesn't really help Naruto in forming the Rasengan without the aid of a clone. Naruto technically also used the Rasengan without a clone when he fuses his Rasengan with Minato's Rasengan when they're both in the Kurama Avatar mode and they formed that ultra massive Rasengan, but you can explain that with Minato helping him out because Minato knew how to do that without the aid of a clone, and because they were both in the Kurama Avatar mode, the Kurama chakra could also help them out at the same time, so it's not a problem here. But then comes the strangest usage of the Rasengan of all time, probably. And honestly, that should be like a filler episode on Boruto. Kind of overlooked because it's not Naruto using the Rasengan technically. It's a lot of other people. Remember when Naruto and Sasuke used the majestic Attire Susanoo against Domuto? Yeah, members of the Konoha 12 hops on the Nine-Tails' tails, and they all used a Rasengan. Well, they didn't use it. Naruto formed the Rasengan for them, and then they used the Rasengan against Obito's barrier, and like, that wasn't even Naruto producing the Rasengan with his hands. This ethereal KCM2 cloak formed around every single member of the Konoha 12 that was going to use the Rasengan there, and then the Rasengan also formed itself. So yeah, Naruto was not helming the production of those Rasengans physically. They simply manifested themselves. So it appears that Naruto mastered the most power most characters ever seen in their life before he even got Sage of Six Paths Sage Mode. But what is actually going on there with everybody using Rasengan with a KCM2 cloak? We don't know for certain. Was it the Nine-Tails literally forming the Rasengan for them? Because yeah, they had to get the KCM2 cloak before they used the Rasengan, meaning that they were imbued with the Nine-Tails' chakra and maybe a bit of Naruto's chakra before they could use the jutsu. But it definitely feels much more that Naruto was the one doing that jutsu. It's even more thematic if Naruto is the one doing it, because it's all his friends coming together to help him out in this climactic fight. And so Naruto lends his powers to them, and they use the Rasengan. And that usage of the Rasengan is similar to the Bijudama Rasen Shuriken Barrage, where Naruto isn't even in contact with the Rasengan. And obviously there's nothing physically rotating the Rasengan, so Naruto had to be able to rotate the Rasengan by himself without the aid of a clone. And even without the aid of the Nine-Tails' chakra, because we don't see a chakra limb jumping off the KCM2 cloak in all the Konoha 12 members there. So when exactly did it happen? When did Naruto master the Rasengan without the aid of a clone? Well, combining all those pieces of evidence, it feels like it happened when Naruto mastered KCM2, because he used the Rasengan without the aid of a clone to unmask Obito. He used the Rasengan without the aid of a clone to get Obito from behind in the Ten Tails form, and he gave all his friends a big Rasengan without even touching the Rasengan first. But why would befriending the Nine-Tails and getting KCM2 unlock this ability out of nowhere? As I said before, it doesn't really make that much sense for Naruto simply to get better at mastering chakra control just because he befriends the Nine-Tails and he has more Nine-Tails' chakra available to him now. It may not make sense that way, but there is another ability.
You could say he just got stronger, more mature, you know what I'm saying, throughout this whole thing, you know. He can calm his mind when he does a Rasengan. I don't know. It could just be a lot of things.
Naruto unlocks once he befriends the Nine-Tails, an ability he could not use with KCM1, and now he could, freely. Well, so long as he has chakra, I suppose, which is going to be the first ability we even mentioned in this video that the Rasengan was based off of, the Tail Beast Bomb. KCM1 Naruto couldn't use the Tail Beast Bomb, not because he didn't have the ability to, but because he didn't have the chakra. He tried to use the Tail Beast Bomb against the Third Raikage Raikage, and the Tail Beast Bomb failed to form because he didn't have enough energy. And that's because the Ninetales wasn't allowing him to. But now that the Ninetales has befriended Naruto, Kurama doesn't have to limit the amount of chakra Naruto has access to. He can use as much Ninetales' chakra as he wants, and therefore he's able to form Tail Beast Bombs. And by forming those Tail Beast Bombs, the jutsu Minato used as inspiration to create the Rasengan, it's likely that Naruto simply learned how to use the Rasengan without the aid of a clone. He gained those abilities by acquiring them after he got Caesium 2, and also after Kurama helped him out. They were fighting together with a Kurama avatar there, and they used the Bijudama for the first time, and we see that Naruto also acquires the ability to use the Bijudama even when he is not in the Kurama avatar mode with a mini Bijudama, for example. So he uses that jutsu, he uses the Bijudama a couple of times, and then it appears he gets the hang of it. Suddenly, he's able to use the Rasengan without a clone. He's able to rotate it by himself, and because he has so much more chakra as well, he can create Rasengans for his friends. And now that he has this innate knowledge of how to rotate the Rasengan and compress it at the same time because he got the hang of it through the Bijudama, he can use the Rasengan without a shadow clone, even when he's not using the Ninetales' chakra when he hits Jubito with it. Now, importantly enough, this does not extend itself to the Rasen Shuriken. For example, when Naruto aimed that super massive Rasen Shuriken from the top of the Divine Tree straight to Madara way back down, he had to use shadow clones to help him form the Rasen Shuriken. And in other times when Naruto had access to the Ninetales' chakra, he still needed to use the Ninetales' limbs to form the Rasen Shuriken as well, because the version of the jutsu that Minato created didn't involve imbuing it with a nature transformation yet. The jutsu was incomplete. Naruto was the one who completed it because Minato died without finishing his own jutsu. The Bijudama, which is the jutsu that Minato got inspired from, could only help Naruto master the more basic form of the jutsu, which is the simple Rasengan, and not the Rasen Shuriken. However, when he gains access to the godly powers of Hagoromo and Six Paths Senjutsu, then yeah, he is able to use the Rasen Shuriken without the aid of a clone or anything else. Watch this.
That is crazy. That nigga he just said, fuck you, I'm just gonna do this one-handed now. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, shout out to DygoKnight for this video. That was pretty interesting to learn. Damn, I forgot about some of those moments where he did use it with one hand. Damn. Like I said, the first fight, but you could, like I said, you could say the Kurama clip kind of helped him out, but then he eventually did it. So pretty much when he got KCM 2, it pretty much kind of helped him. He just, I guess he'd be, I don't know, all that power. He learned some shit. I don't know, but yeah, shout out to DygoKnight for this video, man. Make sure you check out the last DygoKnight video I watched right here. Check out another video you might like over here, and you know what I'm saying, Domuto.